Hello everyone, this is a tutorial for Midas GTS. In this tutorial we'll be going over how to use the program to model a 3D tunnel connecting gallery. So the first step is to import your ground material properties as well as your structural properties. So typically when doing this, you go up to the model section, you go to property, and then you create your attributes, your materials, and your properties. But there is a faster way to do this. For example, if you have a past project where you have material properties defined previously, what you can do is you can import those properties directly into your new project. So in order to do that, simply click on Attribute and then select Import. And then just find the project that that has the material properties that you're looking for. Okay. Then once you select your file, all of the properties that are available to you will show up in the left side hand. So if I want to select all of them, I would just select all. Otherwise, I would select them individually. And once you have all your material properties selected, select OK, and they'll appear inside your file. So as you can see, if we go back to material properties, attributes, we can go here and we can see that all of our structural properties have been imported as well. Okay, so now that we have our material properties defined, we'll need to import our project geometry. So usually the best way to do your geometry is to create it on a CAD file, then import it directly into the program. So in order to import CAD files, simply go to File, then Import, then select the file type that you want to import. So for this particular project, I want to import 2D wireframe drawings that I had previously created. So I'd select that option, I'd select this top function here. As you can see, I have two separate files that I'll be importing. So let's select the first one, main, which will be our main tunnel outline. As you can see, it previews it just on the program for you. So what we'll do is we'll select the compound shape. That way we can select the entire shape. And then let's translate it by 10 feet in the positive Y direction. And if I go to this bottom left icon here, as you can see, the preview will show what my imported drawing will look like. So once I'm sure this is what I want, I just click OK. And my first section has been imported. Now I also have another frame that I'd like to import, which will represent my connecting gallery. So to import that, just go to File, Import, then 2D wireframe. Then go to Connect, where this is the file that I'll be importing. And then once again, the program gives you a preview of what the imported shape will look like. So let's translate this one by 10 in the positive Y direction. We'll make it a compound shape. That way we can select the entire shape. And then we'll see the preview. Okay. Okay, so now that I have my shape imported, the next things I want to do is I want to shift them down to the origin. It's always a good rule of thumb to have an origin as your reference point and to have some corner or part of your project connected to the origin. That way it makes it easier to select elevations and to do your project drawing in general. So first we just need to select geometry, then transform, and then translate. Now we need to select the shapes that we want to translate. So we'll select these two shapes, the top, the second one. We'll select the direction, which will be the Y direction, and then we'll want to move it. So what you could do actually, in order to do it faster, is go to Geometry, Transform, and then Attach. And then simply select the shapes that you'd like to attach. So we'll select both. And then select for our target shape. So instead of a solid, let's choose a point, V, and we'll choose the origin. And then this is a preview of what it'll look like. So then both shapes will be translated to the point of the origin. So click OK. And as you can see, the translation was successful. So now what we'll want to do is want to move this main shape back 30 feet in the Z direction. So now just go to Geometry, go to Transform, and then Translate. Select this main section. Now select the direction. So as you can see, whenever you select Translate, this menu will come up. So first it'll ask you for the shape that you want translated. So I've already selected that. And now I want to select my direction, which is a positive Z direction. So make sure to click on this icon first. But then when this arrow appears, you can select the axis of interest. So this will be the Z axis. And then we just need to create or select the distance. So for this, we'll put -30. And then let's preview it. So as you can see, this is where the shape will be moved to. So once we're sure that this is what we want, we just click OK. Now the shape has been moved. So now the next thing we need to do is we need to rotate the tunnel connecting gallery because it will be perpendicular to the main tunnel. So go to Geometry, then go to Transform, and then Rotate. And select this section. Select the revolution axis, which will be the y-axis. And then select the angle, so 90 degrees. And then if you go to Preview, this is what it will look like. So then select OK. So now we have our geometry moved. Okay. So as far as these lines pointing out from your arcs here, these will be our rock bolts. But for now, we're going to hide them so that we can use them for later use. That way, with the rock bolts hidden, it will be easier to create our geometry. And then later on, we'll reactivate them and make them reappear. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to explode these two geometry sets. So in order to do that, just go to Geometry and then Explode. Then select your shapes. So select this. And as you can see, select sub-level shapes and select OK. So now we can select each of these pieces individually, each of these lines individually. Now let's do the same thing for this geometry set as well. So go to Geometry, go to Explode, select it, make sure it's set to sub-level shapes, and select OK. So now we can select these lines individually too. So now what we need to do is we need to create a different geometry set for the rock bolts. So open this, here's the work tree menu. So open the Geometry tab, and then you'll have all these options. So we don't have any of these things created yet, but we can create a new geometry set. That way we can select certain pieces by sets for convenience. So right-click on Geometry Set and select New Geometry Set. Now you have the option of creating a new set. So let's rename this Main Tunnel or Main Rock Bolts. Okay. So now we need to select these pieces and include them into this geometry set. So right-click on Main Rock Bolt, select a geometry set, and then select Include Items. So we could select these one by one, but in order to speed up the process, we can change our selection options. So go to the top here, and as you can see, all of these are just options or different ways that you can create, that you can select your items. So select Polyline, and what this does, this allows you to create a line, and anything that line touches will be selected. Then double click, and then press OK. So now we have this set of rock bolts, or this set of lines assigned to the rock bolt geometry set. What we can do is we can turn it off. So that way these will remain hidden until we need them later, and we can check it back on. Now we need to do the same thing for the second set of rock bolts. So go to Geometry Set, select New Geometry Set, select the newly created set, and rename it. So press F2. Now let's name this Connect RB. And then right-click on Geometry Set, Include Items. And then it's the same process as the previous set. So select Polyline, select the rock bolts, double-click, and then select OK. And now we can turn off this set of lines as well. So now that the rock bolts have been hidden, it will be a lot easier to create our geometry. So the next thing we need to do is we need to create wire elements out of these geometry sets. So as you can see, when I select them, it's only individually. So what I want to do is I want to make it so that I can select the entire shape just by touching one of them. So what I need to do is I just need to go to Geometry, Curve, and then Make Wire. So it'll ask you what entities you want to create that you want to make into a wire. So let's select the main tunnel gallery here, and make sure to make it a single entity. That way it'll merge all of the entities into one, and click Apply. As you can see, it's now a wire shape that I can select in its entirety. Now I need to do the same thing for the connecting gallery. So simply select all of the line segments, and then select Apply. Okay, so now that we have these wireframes, we can extrude them to create our solid elements. So first, go to Geometry, then Generator Feature, and then Extrude. First, you need to select the extrusion profile. So first, we need to select a 2D frame. So this main tunnel frame will be our first one. And then also make sure to change your selection feature from face to wire. That way you can select the frame. Now we need to select the extrusion direction. So this will be in the Z direction. So select this tab and select this axis. And last, we need to specify the length of our extrusion. So let's make it 60, and then let's name this Main Tunnel. So this will be the name of our solid. And before we select OK, let's make sure that it checks out OK. So click on the top or the bottom left icon, select Preview. And as you can see, this is just a preview of what the solid shape will look like. So now press OK. So now we have our first solid element, which will be our tunnel. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to create a solid element for our connecting gallery. Right now we can't see it, so let's turn the main tunnel section off. So if you go here, as you can see, our solid appears in the Work menu. So open it or expand it, and then check it off so you can hide it now. Now we just need to do the same thing, or to do the same extrusion process with the connecting gallery. So go to Geometry, go to Generator Feature, Extrude, select the wireframe, select the direction of the extrusion, so it'll be our x-axis this time. And now we just need to specify the length of the extrusion. So for this, let's make it 14. Let's name this Connecting Tunnel. And let's preview it. Okay. So now we have our tunnel with a connecting gallery. So now that we have the tunnel itself, now we need to create the ground. So in order to do that, first and foremost, we should move the work plane to make the drawing of the ground easier. So first, in order to move your work plane, as you can see, the origin is in the middle here. So in order to move the work plane, go to Model, or excuse me, go to Geometry, Work Plane, and then Move. And then in order to change your views, all of the options are here. So let's move the work plane to this face here. So let's do that. Then we can zoom out, just using the scroll option and the mouse. Now, select the 3-point option, and it'll ask you for 3 reference points for which to move to the work plane to. So first, it'll ask you where you want the origin to be. Okay, so right now I want to select this middle portion here. So in order to select that, just choose this option here, toggle on this option, and this will allow you to select the middle of any beam or any line element. Okay, so now I can select it. So select this point to be your origin. Now it'll ask you where the x-axis is to be relative to the origin. So you can just select this point next to it, and then it'll ask you for the plane where you want the work plane to be. So you can just select this point. So now it has its 3 points, or the 3 points of the new plane. So let's preview it, and as you can see, the work plane will be moved to this area here against the face of the tunnel. So just click OK, and now the work plane has been shifted. So now we can more easily draw geometry just against the face of this tunnel. Okay, so now that the work plane has been shifted, we can draw a rectangle. So go to Geometry, and Curve, Create on Work Plane, and then select a rectangle wire in parentheses. So there are 2 different ways you could create your rectangle. One is through specifying 3 points, or you can select it from corner to corner. So let's select it through the corner to corner method. So we'll start here, and then we'll move the rectangle like so. Okay, so ideally we'd want the tunnel to be just about in the middle of our soil block. So we're going to need to transform, or to move this rectangle down the y-axis. So we just go to Geometry, then Transform, and then Translate. Select the rectangle, select the axis that you want to translate it, so the y-axis, and then select the distance. So this I'm not entirely sure just offhand, so let's test -30 and preview it. So that's just about right, so let's click OK. Okay, so this will be our soil layer. So as you can see, it's still a 2D element, so what we'll need to do is we'll need to extrude it, just as we extruded the tunnel elements. So we go to Geometry, Generator Feature, and Extrude. Select the wireframe of the rectangle, and also make sure that you change the selection option from face to wire, otherwise you won't be able to select it. And then select your extrusion direction, which will be the Z direction. The length will be 60. And now let's preview just to make sure. Okay, so once we're done, just click OK. Now we have our soil. Now it's an important thing to note that currently the program doesn't recognize that this element is carved into the soil block. In other words, these solids are overlapping. So in order to overcome that, what we need to do is embed the tunnel into the soil block itself. That way, when we check off the tunnel, it'll be hollowed out into the ground. So first, in order to make the viewing easier, let's make the soil block transparent. So in order to do that, just select the block, right-click, select Transparency, or just go to Display Mode, and select Wireframe. That way, the program still recognizes that this block is a solid, but you can see through it so that you can see the underground structures. So in order to embed this tunnel here, first thing we need to do is go to Geometry. Or first, actually, let's turn off this connecting gallery first. We'll take care of that later, and I'll explain further on. So now that this is turned off, go to Geometry, go to Solid, and then select Embed. Now this input menu will come up. So first you need to select the master object, or the object that is being being embedded. So the master object will be the ground itself, and then the tool object is just the object to which you're embedding into the master object. So in other words, the master object is going to remain, but it's this main tunnel gallery that's being inputted, so that the program will be able to recognize that this tunnel is embedded into the solid ground. So select the tool object, select main tunnel, and make sure to select original shape, then select OK. So now the program recognizes that this area here will be hollowed out if we check off the tunnel option, or if we check off the main tunnel. Okay, so now the next thing we need to do is we need to divide the connecting gallery from the solid ground by using the shell of the previously generated ground. So in order to do this, go to Divide by Surface. So go to Geometry, Solid, and then Divide. Okay. So first it'll ask you the solid to be divided. So select the ground. Next it'll ask you to select the dividing tool. So select this icon, and then change the selection filter from face to shell, and then select the connecting gallery. Okay. And then you need to divide the touching faces of the neighbors. So go to check that option on, select neighbor shape, and then select the main tunnel. So sometimes it might be harder to select what you want because of the different geometry that's available to you. So in order to simplify this, just go select main tunnel on the work menu. And as you can see, you can select it more seamlessly that way. And also make sure to select on delete original shapes and select off delete tool shapes. If you do that, your connecting gallery will be deleted after the process. You don't want that. You want to keep the connecting gallery. Now press OK. Okay, so now the program recognizes that this tunnel has been embedded into the soil and that this connecting gallery has been divided as well. So as you can see, you have two different options that are available to you. And because we did the divisions, we need to rename these. So this corresponds to the soil. So let's rename this to soil. Okay. And also, we don't need this wireframe anymore, so we can go ahead and delete that. Just select wireframe, select it, and then delete. Okay, so one thing that we want to do for this analysis, since it's a construction stage analysis, is we want to divide this tunnel into various segments, so that way we can simulate the excavation. So first, we need to create a surface that will be used to divide the tunnel itself. So let's go back to the workplane, and then let's create a rectangle. Create on workplane, select rectangle, wire, and then make sure to check on the make face option. So that way, you'll create a rectangle that has a face between the edges. and just create a rectangle that you'll use as a dividing surface, and just make sure that it's larger than the face of the tunnel. Now, as you can see, because I selected on the make face option, the rectangle now has this face between each of the between the edges, or on the inside of the edges. Okay, so I only have one rectangle, and what I want to do is I want to create a series of rectangles that will be used for the program to recognize which sections I want to cut. So what I need to do is I need to translate this rectangle, and I need to make a series of copies going along the length of the tunnel. So go to Geometry, go to Transform, and then Translate. Now select your object, which will be the rectangle. Select the direction of the translation, so that'll be Z. And then a uniform copy is very important. If you select Move, the rectangle will just be moved. But if you select Uniform Copy, the rectangle will be copied various times along the length of the Z-axis, depending on how you enter it. So for this, let's enter 2 in the distance. So between every rectangle will be 2 feet, and then it'll be duplicated 29 times. And now let's make sure this is what we want. Okay, so it's going along the length. So now click OK. So now we have various surfaces or various rectangles going along the length of our tunnel to divide the various segments. But currently it hasn't been divided yet. So in order to divide, go to Geometry, go to Solid, and then go to Divide. Okay. So now you need to select the solid that you want to divide. So clearly we want to divide the main tunnel. So just select this option, and then Main Tunnel. And then select your tool surfaces. So open up the surface option in the work menu. And as you can see, all the rectangles we've created will show up. So we'll need to select all of them except for this front one here, the first one we created. So just check on one of the rectangles and then hit Control-A on your keyboard. Oh, excuse me. So you need to select your solid divide first. So let's check the main tunnel. There we go. Now go to your surfaces, select the tool to divide icon, and hit Control-A on your keyboard. And as you can see, everything gets selected. So hold Control, and then you can check on the ones that you've already selected to unselect them. So now all we have selected are the rectangles that we'll be using to divide our main tunnel. Okay, so then to check on dividing touching faces of neighbors. And then also select on Delete Original Shape and Delete Tool Shape. Tool Shape, that means that once the cut has been done, all of these rectangles will be deleted because you don't need them anymore. So select OK. Okay, it seems that I've missed a step here, so let's try this again. Oh, I see. Okay, so the step that I missed was I forgot to select the neighbor shapes. So the neighbor shapes just allows you to define certain shapes that you want as neighbors that you don't want to be affected by the cut. So let's try this again. So select neighbor shapes. And what we'll do is we'll select the ground and the connecting gallery. Okay, so as you can see, the main tunnel has been divided. And now that we have it divided, we can turn off this surface. We can delete the surface. Okay, so now we have all these segments which will be modeled in our construction stage. So now we need to do the same thing to the connecting gallery. We need to divide it into certain segments because these will be modeled as a staged excavation as well. So in order to do that, we'll need to go through the same process. We'll create a rectangle, we'll translate it, and then we'll divide the connecting gallery. So in order to do that, we need to remove the work plane first, just so that we can draw the rectangle more easily. So go to Geometry, Work Plane, and then Move. And it's the same process. So now we'll use the 3-point plane. And then actually let's zoom out a little bit, because I want to use the 3 points of the rectangle on this side to define my new work plane. So go to Geometry, Work Plane, Move again. Select 3 points. We'll select this bottom corner as our origin. This point as a reference for the x-axis, and this point to specify where the plane is going to be. Okay. So now we have our new work plane, and now we just need to do our create our rectangle. So go to Curve, Create on Work Plane, and Rectangle. Now, as you can see, because I have certain selection options turned on, the cursor just automatically goes, or the selection automatically goes to certain nodes. So what you can do is you can turn these off, and now you're free to select wherever you like. So let's create this rectangle. Oh, and make sure to turn on make sure to check on the Make Face option. Okay. Now just go to Geometry, Transform, Translate, select the face, select the direction, and select Uniform Copy. So the distance for this will be -2, and then we'll translate it 3 times. We'll copy it 3 times. Let's check the preview. Okay. And now we just need to do the same thing as last time. We just need to divide the solid just using these newly created surfaces as the dividing tools. So just go to Geometry, go to Geometry, Solid, and then Divide. So select the solid to divide. So we need to select the connecting gallery. Then select the tool surfaces. So it'll be easier just to open up the surface option and then select the rectangles. Then let's turn on Divide Touching Faces of Neighbors. Select your neighbor shapes. So we need to select the ground. There you go. And then we need to select the Delete Original Shapes and Delete Tool Shapes. Okay, so as you can see, this has been divided as well, or the connecting gallery has been divided as well. Okay, so now we have our tunnel divided, and later on when we do our construction stage analysis, we'll detail how to separate each excavation into stages by these slices. Okay, so now the next step, or the last part of this tutorial, will be to generate our mesh. Now we want the mesh to be finer along the lengths or along the areas where the tunnel is located, so we can get a more detailed analysis around those sections because they'll be of interest. That's where a lot of principal stresses will occur. So in order to specify that, we need to create a finer mesh set around those areas. So in order to specify that finer mesh set, or that finer meshing, go to Mesh, and then go to Size Control, and then for this, let's select Along Edge. So we'll select these two edges so that the meshing will be finer along those edges. So first it'll ask you to select the edges, so we'll select these two. Then it'll ask for the interval length. So there are different ways you could do the seeding. So let's select linear grading / length. And then let's enter 9 and 2. We'll do symmetric seeding, so it's even. And these are just sort of the divisions that you're going to be using. So it'll be easier to understand once I turn on the preview here. So as you can see, as it goes deeper in towards the center, since it's symmetric, the meshing becomes finer. And that's fairly close to our tunnel. So we'll click OK. So the meshing hasn't been done yet, but later on when we do assign the meshing, the program will recognize that we entered these edges to be finer along these portions here, or along the middle sections. Okay, so first let's mesh the tunnel itself. So go to Geometry, or actually let's go to Mesh, Auto Mesh, and then Solid because we're working with 3D elements. So now we need to select our solids. So first let's just select the tunnel. And as you can see, the ground has been selected too, so I need to deselect that. So an easier way to do this would go to Work menu, hit Control A, that'll select everything, then hold Control, and then unselect the pieces that you don't want included. There you go. So for the division, or the element size, enter 2. Make sure hard rock is specified. And then let's check how it's going to look. So these nodes represent where the how fine the meshing will be. Then click OK. As you can see, all the mesh sets have been created. And now we need to do the same thing for the connecting gallery. So go to Mesh, Auto Mesh, Solid, Division, set it to 2, and then select all the pieces of the connecting gallery. So it'll be easier, I think in this case, just to select them through the Work menu. Preview it, and as you can see, it's very similar to the main tunnel. Then click Apply. Now our meshing has been created. Okay. So now we need to mesh the ground itself. So in order to do that, it's the same process. Go to Mesh, Auto Mesh, Solid, select the ground, select the division, and then 2, once again, will be the element size. Hit the preview button, and as you can see, it's finer along these points here. Actually, the meshing is a little too fine along the edges there, so let's see if we can change that. So let's change the mesh size to 9, since we won't need as fine a meshing along the edges here. So we'll move it over, and as you can see, that's much better now. And now the meshing will be finer just along the areas that are by the tunnel entrances. So then click Apply. And now the soil has been meshed as well. And because we specified these regions to be finer, the meshing is indeed finer along those portions. Okay, so this is just the first part of the tutorial where we've handled just the main sort of the basics of the modeling. We hope you found this useful. Later on we'll post the sort of other segments of this particular project where we'll do the construction stages, the modeling of the rock bolts, and then eventually interpreting the analysis results. But make sure that you understand how to do this portion of the tutorial first before trying to move on. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us and we'll gladly walk you through the remainder. We'll walk you through any sort of troubles that you're having with the program. So I hope you found this useful. And as I said, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to call us. All right, thanks and good luck.